Hello everyone, welcome back to the Proving Grounds. Today we're opening a shop for you thirsty little adventurers who need your potions and your gear. And I have this lovely gentleman, Will, running it in today's game, Moonlighter. Physically for the PS4 and Switch, DRM free availably on GOG, and of course on Steam for the PC people who prefer that route as well. It is also available digitally on Xbox One, no physical version sadly for thou. So, Moonlighter. You'd probably look at the title or the cover art and be like, what is this exactly? Because it's a guy with a sword and a giant pack facing a weird portal thing. So this is a dual, what I like to call a dual gameplay type game. You have the dungeon segment, and then you have a completely different mechanic of something else you have to do, which is shopkeeping. So you play as a young man named Will, who inherited his parents' little shop, the Moonlighter, which apparently used to be a giant, thrilling shop that's just slowly died out because of business. Will starts to take... pardon me, take hand into the dungeons in the local area to acquire items to sell and thus earn profit. So it's essentially a money scam. No, you're collecting money, you prove your shop, you get better gear and such. So it's a cycling system of going in the dungeon looking for loot that you can either use to sell or upgrade your gear, and you go back and sell what you don't want, keep what you do need, and continue progressing through the dungeons. So you only have one dungeon available at the beginning, but you basically come wanting to find out the secrets of the wounds because your father was obsessed with finding the secrets of the wounds, as you have to locate keys that are in each one, unlocking the next one, and a key unlocking the main door that sits in the middle of the wounds you enter. So you always want to be progressing your gear and equipment while trying to also make money, because things will continuously become more expensive. So you'll get more space, more shelf space for things to sell. You'll get special items that can affect the customer's generosity, how long they stay and such. So you get to customize your shop and activities. And you'll be selling by daylight and hoarding items by moonlight in this game. Heh, see what I did though. You can also invest money later on too, but that can be a little more scammy. As for the main dungeon-esque portions of the game, you can roll, and you do get a variety of different types of weapons, from a sword and shield. I didn't find the shield too amazing, but there are uses for the shield. Giant single-hand swords, archery, you get a few items. No magic though. Pure medieval type things here, so no castaway of magic. Now the game has also received several updates that have actually caused things. Now I don't know what of these things were in the original release and were updated, but one of the things I am aware is companions did not exist in the original game. Throughout the dungeon you can find little eggs of sullen mobs in different dungeon areas, and those eggs can be brought back to your shop to be hatched and turned into a little companion. The companions are incredibly useful. I love the mimic and the little flying one. The little flying one pretty much hunts down enemies from anywhere really. It usually stays on the hunt. The mimic, usually you have to be close to things for the attack, but the mimic acts as a chest so you can hoard more items from the dungeon, because you do have a limited amount of space. On top of that, there are also courses on items. Sometimes the items must be on a certain side of your bag space, or sometimes they may be fragile, and if you get hurt, it might break. You can do different things to courses, and there are a few positive courses that can have positive effects as well. So using the courses effectively or countering them to make your maximum profit through your dungeon crawling. Now the dungeon crawling aspect of the game pretty much works like a Zelda game-esque. It's top down, you have multiple rooms you go in and out of, you get a map very similar to like Legend of Zelda looking at that, so if you can imagine it as that. But combat-wise, it doesn't feel too much like a Zelda game. Like I said, there was walling. You do get a few different weapons, where Link is always pretty much used a sword and shield. There's a few different, like, depending on the entries you play, Link gets a few different things. But, he's primarily usually using a sword and shield with a very rare occasion of something else. Will gets a few axes, a few different things. And there's a tier system for each of those, so you're going to have to, if you like a particular weapon, you'll have to go down its tier. Now, what's interesting about the tier system in the game is there are different tiers. Like, you can cause different elements to appear on your weapons, so they can have special abilities of poison, setting them on fire and things. Sadly, one of the negatives in that system, though, is I primarily just focused on the normal. I did try the elements with a few other weapons, but I mostly stayed normal, mainly because one of the drawbacks I feel with how it did the elements on the weapons is that they're a specific tier. Like, say you go down the elemental route, one will be fire, one will be lightning, but you can't have the strongest version will be a completely different element from the weakest version of that tier line. So it's kinda iffy when you want to sort. Now, elements don't really change a whole lot too much. They have a few little note plays in it, but they're not they're like, it's not the end of the universe. What I find more useful personally is some of your shop upgrades actually have an effect in the dungeons as well. You can get a little extra health from sleeping in a special bed. You can also get a few extra shields, which are just a complete free shot regardless of how much damage it is, up until they're all gone. Now, since the game has a very Zelda-esque look to it when it comes to how the dungeons are, you may wonder, are those secrets? You will be sad to find there are no secret walls, but there are secret pits. Sometimes when going on a screen, you may notice a shiny in a pit. That indicates to fall in that pit, and you will find a secret. There are a few different secrets. Sacred books that you have to grab and run away because the Guardian of the Ruins will hunt you down. You can find random bits of loot. You can find a special column thing that you can keep challenging waves of enemies to get really good chest drops. These are very good for money, because obviously money is the primary thing you're trying to get when going through the dungeon. Besides that, there are lots of breakable stuff in your way, like books, papers, old weapons and things in the varying dungeons. But there are also unbreakables, like in the Golem dungeon, the first dungeon, there are pots that have items in them. In the first dungeon, there's bushes that you can destroy that will have items in them, and etc, etc. So, ignoring all the breakables isn't necessarily always recommended. But it's always the specific item in each dungeon, not all breakables. Like in the Golem dungeon, you'll find these little tables with papers and old swords. They never yield anything, so for the first dungeon, always go for the pots. You can sometimes find some free potions. I found a number of free weapons. There's also the universal breakable, the skeleton, which usually always has a potion, I believe, and sometimes may have weapons and things on them. So always go for the skeletons as well. Now, all the dungeons don't have any puzzles. There's pretty much two different really vastly rooms besides some of the gimmicks of the desert area has lava, where the Golem cave, the first one has sticky stuff that slows you down but it doesn't hurt you. First one has poison water on some of the environment. So besides things like that, there's no puzzles. So potentially, basically the rooms come down to two simple rooms. Just a room, so you can just run in and go to wherever the next door is if you don't want to do anything in it. I mean, primarily you'll usually want to kill everything, but depending on the situation, it might be better to run I mean, you might not be quite overpowered yet in the particular exploring you're doing yet. But the other thing you can do is get locked in, and then you have to fight everything to get out, and you will have to. But primarily, how each of the dungeons work, you have 3 floors, and then you go to the boss. And each floor has a mini boss. Now, the mini bosses apparently weren't in the original game either. They will add it in through an update, so you can go with that. But primarily, your biggest problems will be your space early on. Especially if you clear a whole dungeon, you will find vastly more items than you have space, which is why the Mimic Companion is so awesome. But like I said, they're all positive courses. Like ones that can send stuff home, which you want to try and maximize stacking, because different items have a max stat. Some can be stacked up to 5, some can be stacked up to 10. That's kind of all over the place. Slightly just a tad bit annoying to me. And then, of course, you have the boss, where you'll get your key to continue the story progression of making your shop really, really cool. But yeah, you will sadly not find any real puzzles or anything if you're hoping for Zelda-esque puzzles. Now, something that's also a bit bizarre in the game is you can't really refight any of the bosses. You can refight the mini bosses, but not the main dungeon bosses. So when you get back to a boss room, you'll instead be greeted with a horde of monsters and 3 chests. The 3 chests are sinking in slime, and your task is simply to kill all the enemies as fast as possible. If you fail to not kill them fast enough, you may lose some of the chests into this slime. Kill them fast enough, you'll get all 3 chests, and if not, you'll get 2 or 1, depending on how long you take, and they're all filled with goodies. Again, now, early on, you'll have the power to leave the dungeon. You can leave the dungeon at any time once you get your pendant for exchange of money, and that is based on the dungeon and the floor you're on. So, like, if, like, say, in my in-game save, I went back to the Golem dungeon, all the prices would still be as they are at the beginning of the game. So they're based on that. Then later on, you'll also get the power to return back to where you left the portal, which can make progressing through the dungeons much easier when you get that power. On top of that, you can also feed, like, you basically have a option to feed items to it and thus getting money, and it can be kind of useful depending on what kind of items you can either get with junk, or if it just depends on your mindset. But when you get too many items, you can cash in a very small profit off of it by feeding it into the pendant slime. And then you return home, sell stuff, upgrade stuff, get potions, all that nice stuff. Building the town, getting shops, building up your own place. Now, one thing I kind of have with criticism when it comes to the upgrading aspect of the game is I was able to get about like half of the house upgrade shit like near the beginning of the game. And then, like, I think it was by like near the end of the second dungeon, I basically had all the shop upgrades besides the actual shop space, because you got the shop space where you get more space for selling, and then you got your chests, your bed, your cash register, and your selling bin. Like, all those ones I basically had maxed out by the end of the second dungeon. The actual space of your shop is determined by each dungeon you complete, so those ones you can't get a heads up on. And like I said, you help invest into the shops of your town, getting the weapon, a potion shop, a very, very annoying guy who will sell items you found before at a extraordinarily high price, which I made use of him basically one time to get something that's really hard to find to maximize my gear. There was a guy who sells special items for your shop. Like I said, you can put out items that'll make them more charitable towards you for tips and things. And then, like I said, there is a banker for investing money, but that's kind of all over the place on whether you'll actually succeed in getting anything out of it. Sometimes you may make it big, other times you might lose money. Outside that, interesting characters to talk to. There's a few story characters like your grandpa, your childhood friend there, and you can talk to them throughout the story to get a few interesting little tidbits in there about the main character. But overall, it's pretty just down to earth, not anything crazy or anything. This honestly, I really like this game. I really enjoyed it, and it's supposed to have a DLC. Sadly, I hear it's not going to be free, it's going to be paid, so not sure if the DLC will be worth it, but I really, really enjoyed what I played here. While it's so simple, I'm sure you look at it and you're just like, it seems like such a simple concept, like a lot of, like, say, I don't know, like Stardew Valley and so on, Harvest Moons. You get into this rhythm of earning the money, progressing, and getting better stuff to keep getting more money. It's just a cycle in that. And honestly, I don't know how the Switch version performs. This is the PS4 version you're seeing. But if the Switch version is at least a competent port of this game, this would be a fantastic game for portability. Because all you have to do is let a knight progress the save, and pretty much doing a dungeon raid and selling your stuff is a pretty short segment of gameplay. I would say it's fantastic for trips and things, I could imagine. And it is a much friendlier game. It's an E-weighted game, so it's also probably something appropriate for kiddies. I don't think it has anything too bad. There's no, like, off the top of my head, I don't remember any cursing or anything, and there's no, like, blood or extreme violence. So, I'd say it's a fantastic game for that, but I honestly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I played probably way too much of it when I first started doing live streaming of it. Because, like I said, I got a large amount of the upgrades super early in the game. So, and off screen I would just get a bunch of money. But, I highly recommend this game. It is a normal price of $19.99 digitally, and I am assuming its original price for retail was probably $29.99, because that, I'm going to take a quick look at that. Don't know if there's any Switch taxes on it, too. Yes, it is $29.99 console-wise. Now, of course, being a older release, you may find varying prices on it. I think this is, honestly, I would think $30 is a fantastic price for this, but if you don't mind digitally, $20 is also a fantastic deal for this game. If you want to look for a sale also, if you want to go the digital route, I have seen the game for sale multiple times while I was live streaming it, so I'm sure, especially on the PC end, you can probably find some fantastic deals in the digital market as well. But I think $30 is a fantastic deal. 20 is just a deal. But I'm sure you can go lower if you have the patience. But I definitely recommend this. It works on PS4 and that. Now, I do want to address one, probably, there are a few slight, like, sometimes there are a few little hiccups when you're running through dungeons that happen sometimes, but one thing that was really annoying to me when it came to inside the dungeons was my bow. So, you can equip 2 weapons at one time, and I went with a bow after a eventual point, because, you know, long distance, there was a lot of instances where you can get a use out of the long distance. But bows act kind of weird when you're along the edge of the maps. Sometimes it will shoot straight, and sometimes it will stop like it's hitting a wall, and that I had a lot of times where that caused me getting hit or killed, and it was just very... Oh, speaking of killed, when you die, you lose all your items. You do go back to your shop, though, but you lose all your items that you looted, so yeah, that part kind of sucks also on that. But really, minus the few little hiccups, like I said, of strange little flames where it just kind of stutters for a second. That happens a few times. Overall, though, I still really like the game. So if you want to know a little bit more about the spoiling sections of the story, feel free to continue here, but I just definitely recommend this game. If you like what you're seeing, you like shopkeeping kind of things, or these kind of type of games where you have like dungeon crawling and you do some other type of task along with it outside the dungeon, this is definitely up your alley. But anyway, on to spoilers. So, like I said, the story, you start out, you'll play as Will. You're trying to basically revitalize your shop that you're inside. And the big thing is, nobody knows anything about these wounds. But as you slowly progress through them, they get a lot more futuristic. And you find notes that talk about things that sound incredibly futuristic. So it's kind of very odd. But you get to the point where you finally open the middle door and you find out the ruins were created to steal shit from parallel dimensional type of worlds by pirates, dimensional pirates. Now they had escaped and they needed to elude the dimensional police, so they sealed themselves and the ruins away temporarily so they couldn't track them. Sadly, the creature that they used to eventually let them go never let them go, and they stayed there for all of their time until Will finally broke in, and you find all this, and you have to kill the last pirate, who is basically like, sweet, I'm free now. Because everyone else is dead, and that guy don't want to be in here anymore. Kick his ass, and the dimensional police show up. Because now that you opened the main door, they got alerted and found the ruins now. And you basically told you've been technically breaking dimensional law by taking shit in these dungeons. But because that you ended the pirates, and technically you didn't know, but he didn't really mention that. He lets the town slide and tells them that it is now sealed and no one can go in the ruins. But even after the credits and the game saves and everything, you could still go in the ruins and keep playing, though, even though it said you should. And as I said, there is DLC with a new dungeon coming on. So that, I'm not sure if it takes place after the original story or if it gets kind of splashed in the middle. I don't know. I believe it is out for PC, but currently for console, it does not exist yet, and it's supposed to be paid for DLC, like I said. But the ending just kind of was weird because it went all sci-fi. I just was like, that wasn't what I was expecting. But it's an okay story. It's nothing mind-breaking. Willie, this is a game you play for the game. This isn't a game you play for the story. The story is just pretty much there to have some progression. And also for you trophy hunters, this does have a platinum and a pretty nice array of trophies. It has a few silly trophies and of course accomplishments with your store and such. And then progression of trophies for the story. So it has a fair number dash of what you would expect with a few silly fun trophies to try and aim for in that. And there's a few secrets for you to still find out, you know, some things with trees maybe or that. But either way, definitely recommend checking it out. I hope you found this informative. If you found this video helped you learn something new, please feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like it was completely worthless, please feel free to leave a dislike. But watch out for the mimic behind you when you do it. Guilt-free, besides the mimic that's behind you. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining, and until next time, have a delightful day, and be safe out there on the proving grounds.
どうだった？私の作った朝ごはん。 そうかそう